CBS News chief Washington correspondent, Face the Nation moderator John Dickerson is here, along with CBS News chief legal correspondent Jan Crawford. Good morning.
Morning, Charlie.
Beyond all the things we have talked about so far, is it possible that what happens here, not specific to the probe, could change public opinion in a way that it could become a factor in all this?
I think that's what these hearings actually are, is they are it's like the beginning of a hockey match. The puck gets dropped, and then it's a fight for public opinion. Because in the end, if anything happens to the president, it will happen in Congress, and public opinion plays a huge role in that. And so this is the beginning of a process where both sides, or maybe three sides, because you have Republicans, Democrats, and then the White House, are fighting over what public opinion feels about this, about the outcome of today, whether they believe James Comey, whether they believe the president, and then whether this leads to that large question of whether the president tried to impede the investigation.
There seems to be a divide right now between those who think there is obstruction of justice, Jan, and those who do not. What role will this take in the hearings today?
Well, you're going to see a lot of the senators really pressing Comey on whether or not he felt he was being obstructed. You've seen the Republicans already, including this morning on our show, say that it didn't really look like obstruction. There's no evidence of that, and Trump could have had any number of reasons
But John
for
McCain
making
has
the
called it disturbing.
Right, and so then you're going to see those others who kind of take this middle ground. This was inappropriate. All that will play out in the hearing this morning. But I think based on the statement, what we've seen, that may be evidence down the road that there was some improper purpose, but on its face, what we know so far is that this is not on its face obstruction at this point.
And yet, Jan, as a lawyer, as you know, intent is key in terms of proving obstruction of justice.
And that's what we don't have in the statement.
Although I read it very closely, and I thought that the former FBI director seemed to suggest intent on several occasions, specifically that dinner inside the White House where he says that he wanted a relationship of patronage. Does that suggest, are there hints of sort of intent that the James Comey is trying to suggest?
Well, how James Comey receives it is different than how the president is trying to portray it. Now, this is where Robert Mueller, the special counsel, comes in, because, as Jan was saying, this is a set of facts. And if in the course of the other parts of the investigation, Mueller has conversations with people who talk to the president at the same time, and if the president ever said anything to those people about this investigation, then that can get to what
Okay, so then how about the repeated nature of the insistence on dropping the investigation? We talked about, what's happened in the Oval Office, but then this March 30th phone call, and we have a graphic here just to show everyone, too. This is the president called the FBI director, describing the Russian investigation as a cloud. He says it's impairing his ability to act. And he says this. He said he had nothing to do with Russia, had not been involved with hookers in Russia, and had always assumed he was being recorded when in Russia. He asked what we could do to lift the cloud.
So I think what you can read from that, and this will come up again as something to follow today, is Trump is very frustrated that Comey will not publicly announce that he is not a target of this counterintelligence investigation. And I'm sure Trump is thinking he did it for Hillary Clinton. You know, he went out there and announced that we were clearing her, we were not going to prosecute her. Why won't James Comey do that for me? Of course, that's the great irony, right? Because Comey making those public statements about the Clinton email investigation is exactly what got him in trouble. It was one of the stated reasons the Justice Department gave for justifying his firing. And now the president is frustrated that he won't go out and make those public statements, that the president at this time was not his conduct was not under that counterintelligence
Because Comey felt like if the investigation changed, he had to deal with that fact because it had already gone public on the previous announcement.
Correct. Right. And that's why he said he couldn't. He told the president he was unwilling and the department was unwilling to make that. You're going to see people say, though, did it change? Did you open up an investigation after these conversations? Why or why not?
Well, it's interesting. The president's lawyer said the president was vindicated by the fact that this opening statement says the president was not under investigation. But yesterday, the acting FBI director was asked in Congress if he would talk about the president's conversation with James Comey. And he said, I can't, because it's either a part of Mueller's investigation or will be. So if the president was seeking vindication from the past FBI director, the current one is not giving him vindication.
And he had a meeting with Mueller, James Comey, before he agreed to testify today. Isn't that telling about what he's going to say?
Well, Jan actually has a good take on this.
Not necessarily. I mean, I think that there's no question that Mueller would have wanted out what he was going to say, what was in that statement, make sure he didn't leave anything out. Because if this goes down the road, James Comey could be a key witness against the president, and Robert Mueller is going to be stuck with whatever Comey says today. He's going to have to live with that, so he's going to want to make sure that he's fully aware of what Comey's going to be saying.
Jan Crawford and John Dickerson, thank you so much. Comey's testimony is just minutes away. Ahead, we'll go over the schedule. You're watching CBS This Morning.